taken away all the canal's passenger business and continued making inroads into its cargo business. In 1880, almost all cargo was moving by rail, and New York realized it needed to do something to make the canal more competitive with the railroads if the canal was to survive. In 1882, they make a dramatic move. The canal won't be rebuilt again. Instead, it was decided to abolish the tolls. It was a good move, and many shippers came back to the canal. This move gave the canal another 12 to 13 years of life. By the early 1890s, the railroads had drastically lowered their freight rates. Mostly all freight was going by rail, and the canal could no longer compete. It began falling into disrepair, and there was a political debate about what to do with the enlarged Erie. Two factions emerged. One group of politicians wanted to just abandon the canal and bury it. The other faction, led by Teddy Roosevelt, felt the canal had not seen its best days yet and should be rebuilt one more time. When Roosevelt became governor in 1898, he put a commission together to advise him on the canal. The commission recommended the rebuilding of the canal for a third time, provided it would be able to carry larger loads with faster delivery times to make it more competitive with the railroads. Roosevelt asked the chief engineer of New York, Edward Bonds, to design him the most modern barge canal the world has ever seen. There were new technologies for Bonds to work with, so it was possible to do just that. The new technologies included sheet steel, electricity, and the steam engine. These will allow Bonds to abandon the enlarged Erie almost entirely and move the new Erie Barge Canal into the rivers for the first time. He now had the means to canalize the rivers. The sheet steel and electricity would allow the new wash to be wider, higher, and open by motors. Sheet steel would be used to build dams that would raise the water level, allowing larger vessels to work on the canal. The steam engine would allow them to eliminate the tow paths, put the mules out to pasture, and make all the vessels on the new barge canal motorized. Vessels that will work the new canal will be able to carry 100 times the cargo of the original barges. They'll be able to carry up to 3,000 tons. The number of locks will be reduced from 83 to only 35, achieved through higher lock lifts, resulting in much faster travel across the state. After 5 years of planning, construction of the new Erie Barge Canal began in 1905. The section we're on today was completed in 1914, and it's pretty much the same today as back then. The canal fully opened on May 15, 1918, with the completion of the Rochester section. Unlike the first two canals, at first the newly completed canal was a failure. The year was 1918, and America was involved in World War I. There just wasn't any excess steel to build the large vessels that were planned to work on the canal. At first, they had to use steam-powered tugs towing the old enlarged Erie's 240-ton wooden barges. The federal government took over the canal during the war and amazingly put railroad executives in charge of operating it. It's not hard to figure out why the canal did not see the best government contracts during that period. To make matters worse, the federal government did not return the canal to New York until 1921, 3 years after the war ended. And only then did enough steel become available to begin building the large vessels that were envisioned. The canal became successful by the mid-1920s with many different cargo